All right, ladies and gentlemen, wow, this is going to be cool. We got a lot going on here. So let me explain before we get started. This right here was sent over by 3DO. It is the FS Pro 2. It is a binaural microphone, which is really cool. We have the Earthworks, which are a meter away, 39 inches away from the KEF LS50 Metas. That's what we're going to be listening to today, and I'm going to be changing from the binaural mics to the Earthworks as we listen to the LS50 Metas. A couple of things I want to discuss and cover. These speakers are 5 feet 9 inches out into the room. I know that some of you are going to be upset by that, and that's okay. Here at New Record Day, we do a thing called LOTS, which is loudspeaker optimization techniques for soundstage. I'll leave a link down below, and you can check that out. And what that is it's a way to get speakers to breathe and to do some really interesting things. I do understand that there's going to be a compromise when you do that, and one of those compromises with these little speakers, these little guys, cute little guys, is going to be bass response. So yes, before you leave a comment, you are correct that if you had these closer to the front wall, you would indeed get better bass response. And if you want to do that, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. I've listened to both, and after using LOTS, this is where I prefer the KEF LS50 Metas. Really interesting loudspeaker. The review should be out any moment. Both of these videos might actually be released at the same time. I'm not really sure, but they're going to be very close to each other, and I will make sure that I am diligent in leaving links to both the sound clips with commentary to the review and from the review to the sound clips with commentary. This video is indeed being sponsored by Adorama. They don't know that because they haven't paid me any money, and I'm not going to charge them any money, but I want to show my appreciation to Adorama for making this happen. This, meaning this guy. Adorama worked on our behalf, guys, to make this happen. And I am so thankful and grateful for that, that all the links to Adorama are down below. Make sure you bookmark it. Say thanks, Adorama, because this is freaking awesome. Now we have the Earthworks, and we have binaural for these recordings, and I am so anxious and excited to see what this sounds like. So, the rig. We have on deck the Holo Audio Maydac, which I have not sent back yet. That is being fed by the Ineos Zenith, which is mine. I do own that, and that is the source, essentially. That is sending the signal over to the Holo Audio Maydac, and then from the Maydac, we're going to do something interesting. We are going into the KEF Audio Freya Plus. If you are new to New Record Day, you're probably like, this guy's a moron. And you might be right. It's shit audio, but it's a joke. New Record Day fans, they know the joke. All right, so KEF Audio Freya Plus, balanced, all balanced cables, complements to Audio Art cables, so shout out to them. All cables being used are from Audio Art, and we're going balanced from the Freya Plus into a Purify amplifier, and I'll leave a link to the Purify offerings. They are do-it-yourself. This is like an amp that they threw together to send to me just to kind of listen to and check out with some speakers that they sent, and I'll be getting to that review very quickly. And in any event, the reason why I'm using the Purify amp is the LS50 Metas, they need power to wake them up. They are a lot like a Maggie in this regard, that the more you give to them, the more they turn around and say, hey, thanks, man, I appreciate that. And so, did I turn on the camera? Oh, goodness, I got nervous there. Yes, I did. Okay, enough blabbering. So, that is the rig, that is what we're listening to, and let's dive in and have some fun. one of the things that I talk about a lot in the review, well, not a lot, but I give a nod to the fact that the LS50 metas will absolutely disappear in a room. There's no doubt about that. And having heard now the LS50 metas and the original LS50s, I would say the same for both speakers, is when it comes to imaging and soundstage, especially when you are doing what I'm doing, bringing them out into the room, the speakers will go missing. You'll be looking for them for days and be like, where did those speakers go? That's a dad joke. It was a good one too. I gotta say, when it comes to soundstage, LS50s do it, and that performance, it shows it. I have a performance in the room. I don't have speakers in the room. I cannot localize where the speakers are, and that is a huge celebration. The LS50 metas right now are on 24-inch stands. I wish they were up a little bit higher. I'm sitting about 40 inches high from the couch position. The binaural mic is about 30 inches high, and they're close to the same height as the tweeter, the LS50 metas. But don't let that discourage you, and the reason being is the vertical response on the LS50 metas is spectacular. And so you can be higher or lower than the speaker and you're still going to get the goods. There's no doubt about that. One of the things that I also wanted to mention is you may experiment with crossing the streams. They are a concentric design and they do lend themselves to advantages if you decide to do this aggressive toe-in that I've showed you guys before. And I'll leave a link down below on how to do it. But you essentially have them crossing in front of your face, right? So it's an aggressive toe-in, and interesting things can happen with the metas if you decide to do that. So experiment, try it, see what you think. Interestingly enough, I actually like the LS50 metas just face forward or a very slight toe-in. One of the key differences between the LS50 metas is from the older LS50s, the original LS50s, is there's two things that I identified in the review: upper mid-range and top end extension, treble extension. With upper mid-range, I found that with the original LS50s, there's just a little more bite. They're a little more forward sounding in some tracks when it comes to upper mid-range. And then when it comes to treble extension, all things in the time domain, air, we're talking way out there in the ether, the LS50's metas, they do take the lead in that regard. And so there's just a little bit more lift, and we actually saw this in the measurements, that they give you a bit more of the air and stuff in the time domain. And that was something that in this particular track, when I was bouncing between the two, I noticed that is just the ambience of the recording was more vivid with the metas than it was with the original LS50s.
I wanna go out and face the cold, but it's a really good time for a monologue. Can't let this pass, I find it hard to breathe. Time is up, the bell has rang, and it's really hard to understand. But losing you now is the only choice for me. Someday our roads will cross before. Someday our ocean will find its shore. If you've never been this tired, then you've never been this in love. When you feel there is time for us, then I'll be by the same old road. Minutes ago, you were still mine.
One of the things that was interesting when I bounced back between the LS50 metas and the original LS50s is that when it came to vocals, specifically male vocals and most female vocals, man, I had a hard time telling much of a difference, if there is a difference, and I talk about this in the review. Vocals on both the original LS50s and the metas, it's very good. And you know, with these being a concentric design, you do get that kind of holographic type thing going on where you feel like the singer is singing right out in front of you. And yeah, they're great. They're great in that regard. You cannot dispute that. By the way, some of those like squeaks on the string, also the top end decay on those whistles and things like that at the beginning of that track, those were the key subtleties that I was paying attention to when I was going between the meta and the original LS50. That's what I was trying to hone in on and listen for. And when you do, and you play them back to back, you'll realize there is indeed more air and extension with the metas than the older LS50s.
Sunsets in Boston, kissing yellow concrete. We watched all of them together until we couldn't go to sleep. Wish it lasted forever, but it faded away. I was wrong, you were right. We couldn't stand tall under the fire. Somewhere I can see the silver lining. away.
The metas, and I would say this is true about the original LS50s, is they do ride the line of precision. They are, I would say they're voiced to be pretty darn neutral, but at the same time, you do have that laser line ability just to kind of, you can almost trace around everything in the soundstage, especially when you give the speakers room to breathe. You get this performance, and with that performance, you don't really have a whole lot of smearing from one thing to the next. It's as if you can close your eyes and you can just, every little detail etching around everything that is played in the room. They do that, and they do it quite well. I wish, and I know that physics has decided to show up and give us the finger, but I wish that both the metas as well as the original LS50s just were able to hit lower with more confidence. Because then it would be so much easier to say rush out and get these if you're looking for a complete speaker, because they're not the whole enchilada. And, you know, that might ruffle some feathers of the KEF fanboys, but I'm telling you right now that if you set your emotions to the side and you just listen, they're not the whole enchilada. They can't produce really deep, meaningful, confident bass. And I would go as far as to say, even when compared to speakers that are around their same size, not much bigger than they are. And so I do feel that there is a sacrifice that one is going to make if they decide to get these and they don't have a sub, or they're not interested in doing subs. There's going to be some stuff that is missing. So this is what I'm going to say. Mid bass and up. I would say definitely mid bass and up. It is difficult to find anything to nitpick about the metas. It is difficult to find anything that is a wart or something that isn't great. So I would say that KEF has succeeded in giving us a speaker that from mid bass and up, it is great. It is above average, especially if you are like me in that soundstage is king and imaging is super important and you want the performance in the room. These will do it. Yes, you do have to give them power to wake them up and to get them to sound alive, But when you do that, they reward you. The hard part about the LS50 metas for me is, yes, they have this disc, and I talk about this a lot in the review, and guaranteed I'm going to get in trouble for it, but whatever. Here's the thing. Is that disc responsible for all of the salient attributes that we are hearing in this speaker? It's hard to say. It's difficult to say, and the reason why I'm saying that is if I put up the LS50s, many of the same salient attributes are shown in the original LS50s, meaning they image really well, soundstage is fantastic, we have precision and clarity, slight voicing changes in upper mid-range and top end extension, but at no point have I walked away saying, it is because of this disc, all of these things that we're hearing is the reality. I'm not buying it. I'm not. I think I appreciate the forward thinking of dealing with the back waves and the pressure from that tweeter and doing this disc, but I'm getting long-winded. I think you know what I'm saying. Let's move on. It just occurred to me with this particular track, one of the key differences between the Meta and the original LS50 is that upper mid-range. And so we get into things like electric guitars. And with the original LS50, that electric guitar is a little bit pokey at times, especially when the cymbals start coming in and the drummer's kind of going bananas. It can get a little bit pokey. It can get a little bit forward sounding to me. Not a lot. A little bit, so hear me, it's a little bit pokey, truly. But with the LS50 Metas, we do see a little bit of a soft response in the upper mid-range, and I think that it does help with some of these types of recordings where it's just a little softer than its older brother. And that's not a bad thing. One thing that I'm going to mention is if somebody was to listen to these in this room right now, and we were to go back to back with many other bookies that are around the same price or even cheaper, as an example, the ELAC uni-fi UB52s or the GR Research XLS Encores, or the list goes on. They might walk away saying the LS50 Metas sound a bit thin. And you know what? They wouldn't be wrong. And a large part of that has literally nothing to do with their performance of mid-range and beyond. It all has to do with the stuff down low. And so, again, I can't emphasize this enough, that if you want a more complete speaker, if you want a speaker that is able to do more than the LS50 Metas, there are very good options out there, but it doesn't mean that they are going to be superior than what the LS50 Metas are doing in those other categories, meaning from mid-range and beyond. It doesn't mean that they're going to be better than the LS50 Metas. It's going to be a trade-off. Do you want some more? Yeah. Because if you do, you might sacrifice a little bit more. Yeah. You trekking with me? Am I making sense? I think you guys are picking up what I'm putting down. All right. Almost done here. Let's try a couple more here. Something that I celebrated with these big bad mother flowers in the corner of the room, the Q Acoustics Concept 500s, is a lack of resonance. I'm going to celebrate the exact same thing with the LS50 Metas as well as the original LS50s. When you have a speaker that is playing the performance and it is not colored with cabinet resonance or resonances from the speaker itself, it's good. It's bloody darn good, for crying out loud. And in a performance like this, where I have no idea what instruments those are, congas, bongos, I don't know, you guys can tell me. But there is some stuff that is playing in the heart of mid-band and mid-bass. And it's easy for that type of stuff to sound bloated. And often when it sounds bloated, it is typically because it is the consequence of resonance. And so there is some bloaty type smearing going on. It might be because of port turbulence or chuffing, things of that nature. But with the LS50 Metas, I'm just hearing the instruments as they are. And it sounds fantastic. I wish it was digging a little bit deeper, and I wish there was a little bit more heft and weight. But I have to give credit where credit is due, is it's at least clean. I can hear it, it is easy to identify, and I'm not hearing added resonance on top of the track. Everything being played in the soundstage is like little fireflies, just dangling, just a perfect performance, no speakers in the room. I gotta say, that's what these things do, and they do it really well. I got it. I know what KEF needs to do. They need to come out with the KEF LS100. A bigger brother of the LS50 that does everything that the LS50 does right, but it does more down below. Give me some heft and weight, and we at New Record Day will celebrate. We'll say, good job. We'll take you out to dinner at Taco Bell. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go to Taco Bell and get a bunch of bean burritos. Ambience, time domain, air and extension, folks. Put on a pair of headphones. This is what it's all about. All right, last track. Here we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for hanging out with me. I certainly do appreciate it. As I was sitting here, one thing I forgot to mention. Typically, if I'm just listening to the LS50 metas, they're actually about a foot further into the room, okay? The reason why they are where they are at is because of this guy. And this is important to note because I know that some of you guys are going to say, hey, why didn't you put the binaural mic where you are? Well, this is actually closer to where I would ideally be to the speaker, and that's why this is sitting here. So keep that in mind. That's why this is here and not here. I am further back than what would be ideal, okay? So again, normally when I listen to these, they're actually pulled out about a foot further and a little bit wider than where they are, but again, trying to get the best sound out of the mics is challenging. There's always a compromise, and I'm anxious to see how this sounds. So thank you again, Autorama. Thank you. Thank you for making this happen. And 3DO, thank you. I'm excited. I hope this thing does not disappoint. There will be a full review of this guy. Not as much of a review as I can do of it, I mean, but there will be a review of this. And so that will be my way of saying thanks for sending this out to play with it. I don't get to keep it or anything like that. So full transparency there. I'm just checking it out and trying it with the sound clips. So, all right, guys, don't forget to like the video. A lot of times we just watch the video and we like it and we forget to like it. It does help with the YouTube algorithm and all that, you know, good stuff. So make sure you hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. All the links that you need are down below, including Patreon links. And yeah, thank you. We'll see you guys in the next video.